Hi, I'm Melissa from SoGoSurvey, and it's my pleasure to be with you once again to review our latest release. This time, it's SoGoSurvey 29.0. You've probably already seen this in your account. If you've just been waiting for the engraved invitation, now's the time. It's a perfect time to log in and check it out, but I appreciate you joining me today to review a few of the highlights. We're going to start in design, as many projects do, of course. And one of the first pieces to talk about is exactly where everything starts, Create Project. You already know that you can click Create Project from the home page of your own account. You can also click Create when you're creating a project or working in an existing project. But now you can also create a project from the All Projects page. So when you're taking a look in your account, you've clicked on All Projects in the top left. You'll see the entire list of all of the projects you have access to in your own account. Now, if you feel that you're looking for something that just doesn't exist and it's time to start from scratch, you can also choose Create up here at the top of the screen. You'll also see some extended options under filtering. So now in the past, you've been able to search by show me a CX project or an assessment, for example, or show me something in edit mode or something expired. And now we've also added functionality as a filter type. So you can search for something that's a merged project or that uses instant thanks, for example. And in addition to being able to filter through these options, you'll also see some more icons along the side here that let you know this is a project type that you're looking for. Next, we're taking a look at faster, faster, faster. That's what everyone always wants, of course. How quickly can I build a survey project? Well, pretty quickly, because now we're going to help you with recommendations along the way. So in this case, what you're seeing is answer recommendations and the answer library. So answer recommendations, new functionality. When you start to type a question, if we have a suggested answer set for you down below, we'll show it here. And you can say, yes, I want this one, or simply add all of them. You'll notice that there are any number of different options here, and these ones here are based on a rating scale. So dissatisfied all the way to satisfied. If you choose to add an answer set that is based on a rating scale, weights will automatically be applied. Very cool, very fast, very efficient. And one additional piece too, actually, if you've chosen to add rating type answers to a question that's not actually a rating type question, here we'll make it a rating question for you automatically. So to say it again, in this case, if I've chosen a radio button, but I've chosen to add a satisfaction scale of answers, the system will automatically update it for me because it knows that I'm trying to ask a rating question. Now, this might look exactly the same to your participants, but we all know when you get to reporting, you want to be able to see an average weighted score, not just how many people said each answer option, but overall. And that's the benefit of having those rating questions. One more point I should make along the way here too, over on the right-hand side, this is the answer library. So we've had the answer library with us for a very long time. If you're not familiar with it, the idea of being able to pull an answer set, either a system-defined one that we've created for you, or some user-defined answer lists, those custom answer lists that you've created for yourself. Now, instead of opening in a separate modal, it'll open so you can see it right beside your questions and pick and choose. You can actually search as well too, based on the title of that answer list, or based on any of the answers included as well. So making things a little bit faster in the design stage. So let's talk about distribution. First up is touch rules. Now, you might not be familiar with the concept of touch rules, but you're probably familiar with the concept of over-surveying. And touch rules is exactly designed to take care of that. So let's say that you're sending out lots of surveys to your customers, for example, but you want to avoid sending them to the same people over and over again. So touch rules, I've actually updated the filters here now, so you can decide who shouldn't be invited, whether they've received invitations from you recently or participated in invitations from you recently. Here we're allowing you to drill down all the way to the very hour. So if you're using some of those automated processes to send over and over again, you might benefit from having touch rule filters applied to narrow down the criteria of who should be receiving or who shouldn't be receiving. Nobody wants to be over-surveyed. We all want data, but as a participant, privacy should definitely be a top priority. Another one here talking about privacy and also talking about delivery. We know today we're getting more and more concerns about, are these emails actually going to get through? And sometimes what we find out is people are sending invitations that almost have no chance of being delivered because of the policy set up on the actual domain end, based on the receiver's end. One of the ways that we've decided to address this issue head on, of course, is to give you the chance to check some of these details up front. So first of all, if you are always sending emails from the default, here right now I can see reset to default, and that's the one that was there when you started your account. It probably says something like at mail3, SoGoSurvey, etc. That default is totally fine. So if you are always sending from the sender email address that's the default, just skip ahead to the next part of this conversation. If you are someone who has already updated the sender email and you've authenticated your domain as well, awesome, great job, proceed to the next part of the conversation. However, if you are someone who has updated the sender email to something totally different, like at melissa.com, for example, you do need to go ahead and authenticate that domain. You do need to make sure that you have set up permission to send from that domain. If you're the proud owner of melissa.com, it shouldn't be a problem for your IT team to help you. However, as in this case, you're probably not the proud owner of gmail.com, so that's going to be causing you an issue in delivery. So what's happening in this process right now is we're being able to say, I'm entering this address. This is the address that I'd like to use as the sender address. When you enter that new sender address, our system will check the DMARC policies. What are the filters? What are the privacy sort of restrictions in place on that domain? Will it allow email invitations? If we find out that it will not allow email invitations, we're going to prevent you from using this address because we know delivery is going to fail. So something definitely to check into, but we want to be able to help you find that out in advance rather than at the last minute. All right, let's talk a little bit more about distribution. So concept of this slide is automatic is magic. One of the ways that we make things happen automatically is through recurring delivery. And this happens because you have a contact list, you set up a rule and say, send this survey to this contact list over and over again, every day or every particular days of the week, for example. Great idea, but of course it means that you could be sending invitations to the same people very frequently. Useful in some cases, like an employee pulse check, for example, but maybe you only want to send to new contacts or updated contacts, and that's what we've introduced in this release, contact selection criteria. Recurring invitations are really useful. We've expanded the opportunities here and how to review them a little bit more like a dashboard, like you have an automatic distribution. You have a little bit more clarity about which rules are set up for which surveys as well. So very nice. Another one that's really helpful is those automated reminders that you schedule at the same time of the invitation. So I'm sending it now, but I'm also setting up those automatic reminders later. One additional option we've added now is for those automatic reminders, you now have the ability to choose templates with embedded questions. So that's right in the invitation. It's got the thumbs up, thumbs down, or that rating type question in there. And that helps people participate very quickly, right directly from the invitation. So choose to embed those for your automatic reminders as well too. And at the bottom of the screen, I keep saying the same word, but automated distribution. It's got a little bit of a facelift as well, some great UI, but a few UX changes as well too. The idea that now when you set up your automated distribution rules, instead of having exactly the right name for exactly the right project and having them match immediately or instantly, or not match if you've made a mistake, unfortunately, now you'll be able to choose, here's my survey, and which folder in that SFTP server, which of the folders should be selected. So now you can decide which are the ones that match. So it's a great first step, makes things a little bit easier in that process for you. But several other steps in the rest of that process as well. A little bit realigned to make things a little bit more intuitive as you go down those stages, making those decisions along the way. And one more side note, pretty excited about the ability to send duplicates as well from the same file. So if you've collected many different records over a certain period of time, and you do have, multiple visits from a specific person, to your store or to your clinic, for example, now you'll be able to send multiple invitations to those people as well within the same distribution rule. Very cool. All right, and one more idea for distribution here is triggering invitations by email. So if you've ever thought, when this action is completed, we should automatically send a survey invitation. Perfect, but that does mean you can do that through API, you can do it through all sorts of cool integrations. It requires a little bit of tech savvy and also some buy-in from the rest of your team as well to sometimes get that set up. So think about it this way. If you can trigger an email to go out as a result of some action, so it could be in some other tool, it could be in any other number of products that we could let you know, like, hey, case closed, now what happens? Or for example, in our platform, it could be rules and alerts. When this response is received or when this registration form is submitted, send an email. So whatever the process is, if send an email is one of your possible follow-up actions, you can send an email to a specific address we've set up just for your account, and it will create a survey invitation to go out to your designated email address. So again, trigger from a different process. Let's say rules and alerts message. You fill out my registration form, submit. Now I can send to that triggering email address using a custom template, and that's the information, that's the formula, the ingredients that I need for our system to send an invitation from Sogo. So a little bit of a high-level concept to think through there, but here's what it looks like. Within the platform, within integrations, actually, you'll be able to see email to invitation. You'll see your designated address there. You'll be able to create a template based on all of the fields. Which survey project is it? Which template is it? Is it a single-use link? What are all the details? That'll give you a specific template. So here, this template is basically the ingredients that you need for that specific trigger, for that specific invitation to be sent. You also notice too, and this is the actual message that I would send, either from, in my case, a rules and alerts message, sending it to that destination email address targeted, unique to my account, and include that template, these details, and push in, either in rules and alerts, I'd say through piping, but through another platform. It could be Salesforce, for example, merge, like a merge field, that variable field here. In my case, I could just type it directly. That template ID, which includes, is it a single-use link? What project is it? What email template is it? And then any other variable fields, for example, Q1 here in my case is user ID, but any pre-populated fields, you'll also be able to merge those items in. So again, if it was coming through rules and alerts, I would be able to say, push this specific content, enter those piped fields that were submitted on the registration form, and it would trigger the invitation to go out to that targeted email address. So for you, you've registered for my form, and magically, after you registered, you get that follow-up invitation. Maybe it's an assessment. Get ready for the upcoming training, or, how was your session when you, how was that experience of filling out that form, for example? So really cool. So if you've ever wanted to be able to trigger an invitation from some external process, you may not have to get into API, you may not have to get into sort of behind-the-scenes automation options. This is a really cool option based on specific use cases that you may have in mind. So we definitely invite you to explore this one. All right, let's take a look at reports. In Omni, of course, the report of all reports, we've got a few different options here, a few more coming just around the corner, but starting with these ones today. The first one up here is controlling the drill down when you're sharing dynamic links. So if you have saved a report and you're sharing that link with other people, you've got several options that you've already had, of course, here, like set a password, choose whether to let people download it, choose whether to let those recipients use the filter you've created. But here we're talking about whether those recipients should be allowed to drill down to individual responses here. So let's say you get 10 responses and 9 of those people say, great training, but one person says, not so great. Of course, this would never happen, hypothetical. But in this 10th one, we're always drawn to this. Who was that person? What was their experience? What was their story? We're very interested in those outliers. Hopefully they're outliers, or hopefully that maybe it's an invalid response for some reason. So we always want to know what's the story behind that. So if you check this little box, you share that link with someone, that recipient is also going to be able to click on that little response, that last 1 of 10, and be able to drill down to that person's individual response, open it up and see who was that person, what was the rest of their story about. If you don't want people to be able to drill down on it, that's fine. Don't check the box, and they'll simply see one person was dissatisfied and everyone else was satisfied. So very cool, gives you a little bit more control over certain people who should see more and people who should only see the aggregate. So this has nothing to do with anonymous. That information is still available. It's whether can you see down to that individual level. So that information that you have available in the platform, I should say, is the same information that you have now. That's not going to change at all. Of course, if you are looking at this report in your account and you click on that one response, of course you'll see who that person was. You might not know all of their participation details, whether it was anonymous or not, but you'll be able to see that person's full response. Here we're just talking about sharing out that report link with others outside the platform. Another one, this is the easiest thing to explain on this entire deck. For rating questions, you have the ability to display them as dials. So when you're converting that sort of overall bar graph of how many people, that frequency, how many people said excitement levels or satisfaction levels, convert it into weighted score, for example, or anything like that, and you'll be able to display it under customized graph, and Omni you'll be able to display it as a dial. Very simple and easy to explain, that one, and very nice looking as well too, of course. And one more option, we've got segmentation. I wanted to highlight in report level segmentation as well. This is one that we see pretty regularly. I want to be able to split this entire report by different locations, but if there are a very small number of responses or a certain department or a certain role title, you want to make sure that you're protecting people's confidentiality. So you might say, don't show a segment if it has fewer than 5 responses or fewer than 10. You can pick and choose what that number is, because you might find some of those teams are very small, or some departments or roles or locations are very small data sets. So you want to be able to sort of protect the confidentiality of those respondents. Otherwise it becomes very obvious sometimes who said what. So again, some more options here coming with segmentation, with variables just around the corner, but very excited to see so many options coming in to Omni. All right, and last section here are related to, all of these items are related to CX. So really just 2 big items. One of them has to do with drivers. So rating questions, of course, we know we've got those key metrics across all CX projects, things like customer satisfaction, net promoter score, customer effort score. Those are really important, and also the custom metrics as well. But the thing that is impacting those big CX metrics, those are the drivers, those are the variables. Those are our hypotheses. What is having the biggest impact on those overall metrics? So in my case, it's excitement, or perhaps the release is the thing that's really being measured here. So how excited are you about this latest release? If this is a question I'm going to ask over time, again and again and again, I might set it as a custom metric. But for me, this is more of a variable. This is more of a driver that I think if I see that a lot of people are having a good experience with their release, it's pretty likely that they're going to be satisfied. So that's my hypothesis, and that's why I would choose to set this question as a driver. So you'll see this option for all rating questions now. Very useful for your analysis on the dashboard as well. It's important to remember to keep those tags added. So make sure that you're adding tags so that when you take a look at the dashboard, that's where you'll be able to choose which items do I want to see. Do I want to see items related to training? Do I want to see items related to a certain location? So think of them a little bit as the filters, how you decide which slice of data you want to look at each time. All of those come together, of course, metrics, drivers, all of those pieces, as well as tags, in the customer journey. So the idea of the customer journey is pretty obvious. What happens with a person's experience over their sort of life journey with you as an organization? So how did they get to know you in the first place? How are things at each stage of that process? So while the overall dashboard we've seen before is satisfaction over time across lots of different experiences that lots of different people are having, here I'm saying, show me the experiences that people have building awareness with us, getting to know us, coming to have a transaction with us, coming to get support from us, being able to break all of those items. Maybe they're different projects, but they're definitely different stages. So when you come into CX Dashboard now, you'll have the opportunity to create a customer journey either from scratch or by starting with a template as well. And here you'll define what are the stages in that journey. Call it whatever you want, give whatever description you want. You can have sub-stages within there. So here in my awareness, I have passive awareness and active awareness, just for example. and thinking about what are the tags of all of that data that I've collected across all of my projects. What tags do I want to pull together to have a better understanding of this stage in the journey? And of course, those tags are associated with particular projects. And of course, those projects are associated with particular metrics. So now, slightly different project here, but you get the idea. New account, maybe somebody's created then a loan, web banking, mobile banking, in-branch visits, different stages of that journey with the financial institution. And because we're measuring, in this case, Net Promoter Score across all of those tags, show me NPS based on all of those tags at each stage. And below that, show me the strengths and weaknesses. And again, these are based on drivers, so things like customer service, value, convenience, all of those things that we've guessed are hypotheses, all of those things that we've guessed are impacting the overall customer experience metrics. Here we can see, breaking them down. So we can see very quickly, mobile banking, 17 is the NPS. That's not a terrible score, but it's really not great, especially in comparison to everything else. It's clearly the low point. And we can quickly see as well, the issue that is being identified here is security. People are very concerned about the security with mobile banking, and it's having a negative impact on that overall metric. So if we come back to look at it a little bit more closely, we may find that this is the item for us to focus on. If this is the low point on the journey, this is the worst thing that's happening to any of our customers or members along the way, this is our area of opportunity. So very, very cool to be able to think through the customer journey for, for example, people who have a checking account, or people having a loan, or certain groups of people that you're really trying to get to understand better. So different buyer personas, depending on your organization, your business, your products and services that you offer, you may have very different tracks for different types of customers. Very cool. Create multiple if you like. Be able to explore them, take a look at them on the CX dashboard, and then watch that data roll in. As responses come in, of course, it will continue to populate those journey maps as well. So many things to think about, not just CX, not just reports, but the whole way through the process. And I always like to say, we talk about sort of the small changes that make a big difference. Some of my favorite things that come live in releases are things that are not obvious, in a big deck like this, but they're the small things that improve your experience along the way. So I would definitely encourage you to explore. You can check out our blog, SoGoSurvey.com/blog, very surprising. So you can check out a few more of the highlights that are from this release as well. You'll also see a lot of links to the user guide. You can always search in there. It is within the Help Center in your account as well. But you will see a lot of good resources, and we'll always be interested to see your feedback as well. What other resources are you looking for that would be helpful? More explanations of some of the things that I mentioned here today. But of course, the big deal is log into your account and actually see for yourself what's new as you go. There is definitely a lot to explore, and these releases get a little bit more fancy as we go too. So basic things to make your life easier, but also some fancier things as well to extend your use cases and give you more opportunities to streamline your workflows especially. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to drop us a note. Email is always good at support1@SoGoSurvey.com. Depending on your account type, check out the support options that are available within the Help Center as well. Maybe chat with us, schedule a call one-on-one, and we'll be able to drill down on your specific use cases as well. So thanks so much for joining. Be well, take care. We'll talk to you soon.